Hi.
Hey, well done.
Hi.
We're just chatting.
Okay, I see Catherine is, you're
Yeah,
letting her
she's
in.
coming in.
Perfect. So Milena may come today and maybe Marlene later. Anne is not coming and Janet is not coming. Yeah, I think that's it, right? Yeah.
Wilfred, I sent you questions about the starter. I'm confused when to feed it because it's in the freezer. I'm not sure when, I'm like checking it all the times. And I have the millet one and I have the rice one. And the millet one was, like this. It was higher and now
Yep.
it's dropping.
Yep.
So I
Yeah,
have another one that even dropped even more. So I'm not sure if that's the time to feed it when
yeah, your
I'm
millet can go a couple more days. I responded on the Voxer as well, so you have it there just a few minutes
okay.
ago. But the
Okay, good.
millet is still fine for another couple days. And then the rice one looks like it needs to be fed again. You have hooch on top, right?
Yes, I have,
Yeah.
but it was like that from the beginning. So I fed it on Sunday and it didn't grow up.
It didn't at all?
No.
Okay, then you need to leave it out on the counter. It's not ready for the fridge. It needs a little more tender, loving care.
Okay,
So
I'll take
it
it out.
should rise a little more, and then you can put it back in the fridge. Your millet seems to be strong, and that's what I'm finding. Millet is, for whatever reason, a lot more resistant. So you can let that go for a few more days. Eventually, when the starter is really mature, you can feed it once a week or every other week. But in the beginning, the first couple of weeks, you want to do it once or twice a week. So check after 3-4 days. But it looks like your brown rice you may need to leave on the counter for a couple more days before you put it back in the fridge. It's just on the cusp of, not being strong enough to be refrigerated yet.
Okay. Okay. It's weird because the discharge is like bubbly.
Yeah,
It's
that
out
is weird.
it's out for an hour and it's like already growing up,
Yeah, that's great. So that just means that you need to feed the other one. Oh, Milena is here.
Okay. Okay.
Need to keep it out a little bit more and take care of it.
Okay.
But otherwise
Sounds
it looks good. Yeah.
okay.
All right, let's
And
do
that
a
and
couple.
that
Yeah.
sorry, just another question. The millet one that is it went up with bubbles and then dropped. It's okay?
That's fine. That's the normal progression in the refrigerator. So if you leave it out for a couple, let's say an hour or two after you feed it, it will start to rise, and the rise continues but slower in the refrigerator. And then it just either stops there and it stays like that for a couple days, or it starts to collapse. It's fine when it collapses, but as soon as you see either hooch on top or you see a big layer of big bubbles with liquid in it, that's actually hooch, but that's sort of in the middle, then it's time to feed.
Okay, sounds, and now I understand what you're like. Okay, good.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so everything that you see on the counter is supposed to happen in the refrigerator, just a lot slower. And they will collapse. After they reach peak, they just automatically collapse.
Okay. Okay, thanks for clearing
Sure,
it.
no problem, no problem. Do we have any other questions regarding to bread, starter, anything like that before we go into pizza baking?
Yes, I have a question about the discharge.
Discard.
Discard, thank you. How long can it stay in the refrigerator?
It can stay there for a long time. I have some in there that are 2 months, 3 months old. I try to always use the oldest one first.
So you
But
keep them in different jars? Or you just
yes,
to this
I have
jar?
different jars in the sense that I have one discard jar for millet and one for the brown rice. So I keep those two separate. I don't mix them. But sometimes if I don't get to bake a lot and I need to feed, I kind of need an extra vessel, like the one that I'm using today is from Hildegard. I just didn't have room in the jar. So I put it in there and we'll bake with it. So I get room in the refrigerator again. I try to keep a jar no more than this tall of discard.
Okay.
And usually I keep up with it, but if, you know, it's really busy and I don't have time to bake, then it accumulates.
Got it.
Yeah, and you know when it's time to throw out is when, again, you see any weird colors, you see fuzz, when it just doesn't look the way it did in the beginning. So there comes a point where it's just like, you know, it doesn't look the same. Let's get rid of it. I mean, don't chance anything.
Yeah.
Just chuck it.
What do you do with the discard of the millet?
I'll bake with it. So today, I'm already prepared the dough for pizza already ahead of time because I want to show you how we bake it. I used the millet one and I used xanthan gum. The one that we'll make together, I make with the discard from Hildegard, and I'm going to show you how to do the psyllium husk because the xanthan gum dough is a lot more liquid and it's harder to form. So if you're looking for the typical pizza dough consistency, you get that more with psyllium husk. So I'll show you the different properties of it. And in pizza, you're normally eating pizza anyways right away. So that factor that it ages and goes stale, you know, after a day or two is really not an issue with pizza. So you can go either way. But the dough will be different and you prepare it just slightly different.
You're saying that slightly different between the two different discard or between a starter and a discard?
No, between the xanthan gum and the psyllium husk. Ah,
okay. This is okay because I'm using only xanthan gum.
Okay, then yeah,
So
you'll
okay.
see what it looks like. That's the one that I already prepared. That's behind me in the red bowl.
Okay.
So then don't worry about the psyllium husk one, but it will not be a dough that's very firm like what you may know from pizza dough. So we can't throw it in the air or do anything like that. It's a lot more liquid.
Why aren't we actually using the starter and we are using the discard?
You can use the starter, but the starter will give you a much faster rise. So if you had no discard, use starter. But the problem with sourdough is we always use starter, but we have all the discard left. And that just accumulates. So that's a way where you don't need as much rise as in a bread, where you can use up your discard. It's just cycling through the stuff you have in your fridge.
Okay, so if we actually want to have a pizza bread that is more puffy, it's better to use the psyllium?
No, you can use the starter. Then it will rise more.
Okay.
The consistency of the end bread is the same. It's just to work with it, it's a lot more liquid if you use xanthan gum.
Oh, I see. To work with it. Okay, because I have both of them. What would be the difference in flavor?
There's not a whole lot of difference in flavor. Some people have a hard time digesting one or the other. And the psyllium husk, anything that's baked with psyllium husk goes stale faster. But for pizza, you know, you plan to eat it anyways right away, and you're not getting that big rise.
And with psyllium husk, would you get like a crispier, more like durable crust within the xanthan gum, or it's just in the playing with it that's the you're not in the end result of the actual texture of the crust?
Depending how much you use, but we use fairly little in both, you know, in the same recipe, one or the other. So it doesn't make that much of a difference. In bread, if we bake bread, it adds a little bit more of a chewier texture. But I have, for example, compensated for that with the amount of xanthan gum that I use instead of psyllium husk.
So what would you recommend to use if we have both of it and we can work with both of it?
I would say experiment. If you haven't used it yet, then make the pizza with a psyllium husk and see how the texture is. And then next time use the other one, see what you like better. If you tolerate both, then you know, psyllium husk gives you more of that hands-on feeling. So if you really want to work your dough, then use psyllium husk.
Okay. Well, I'll try both of them different times.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Catherine, Milena, any questions?
I have a quick one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe quick. So in trying to save the fiasco that I had going on last week where I fed my starter improperly, I've since have my original that I'm recovered. And I also decided to try to start a new one with discard. And I tried to start a new one with a backup that I completely forgot about. So when I found it, I was like, oh, let me try that. So anyway, the backup is doing well and the original is doing well. And so now I have two really viable ones. Do you have any thoughts on, like, should I just scrap one, keep the one that's doing best, keep them both? Any thoughts about like what to do with two of them now that they're both?
I would say you can use one for baking. Just don't feed it as much and use it all up. You can combine them. Definitely go with the one that is more viable. But for example, if you wanted to use the one that's not as active, you can use it for pizza. Okay. Just use it all up. There's no reason to throw it out because it's still a viable starter.
Yeah. Could I add it to my discard, or do you think it would be better to keep them separate?
You can add it to the discard. The difference really is between discard and active starter is the activity of the microbes. Right. So in a discard, they are much sleepier, if you will, and eventually they just go dormant. But if you can wake them up, it makes a starter.
Well, somebody had mentioned that they used a discard, I think, and I was like, ooh, I never thought about that. So I tried it. And mine hasn't woken up, but it's also been in there for a solid 3 weeks. So maybe that's the problem. But anyway, my backup that I forgot about and discovered is actually doing, as of today, is doing really well. So I'll feed it for another day or so and then put it away maybe.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'll make that my new active. Maybe that'll be my new active one. Anyway, okay, good. I just didn't know if I should do anything special.
Yep. No, you don't really need to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Anytime. Catherine, how are you doing?
Good. All's good. I just, I need a new oven. So I made my second loaf and the oven wasn't hot enough. And so I'm disappointed, but I've been delaying that process for about 1.5 years, like just, so now I'm like, either I'm going to bake bread or, not. So, but we're going to try the pizza tonight. If not, I'm going to be running over to my neighbor. So otherwise it's good. I'm loving it. It's exciting. So
awesome. Good. Yeah. That makes me happy. And I'm sorry about your oven. What's the highest temperature it goes up to right now?
Oh, it goes up to 475 and then I walk away and it shuts off and then I come back. And I really don't have like a thermometer on the inside that's hanging that tells me the temperature. It's the electrical part that's an issue. And it's such an old oven that nobody can find the part for me. So, it's been with me for over 21 years, so I can't complain. Wow. So I need a new one and I, just don't want to go through the hassle of that in my old house. But yeah, it's just, yeah. So that's good. It's good. I'm excited. It's all right. I wish I could use something else like my, my grill or something like that. But my neighbor has offered to let me use her oven. So we'll see.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Sorry about the oven, though. I totally get it. It's a pain if there's no consistency. It just makes everything so much harder.
And everything else you can do, on the stove or like it's just now I'm like, I'm baking bread. Like, nope.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. I wonder, she cannot use the grill if the grill has a cover and you are warming up the grill to the same temperature? It cannot be used?
You definitely could use it for pizza. I have never tried it for bread because it is really hot. So if you want to, go for it. Try it. I cannot say it works because I haven't tried it. But pizza I have made on the grill.
Yeah, I need to get an oven. It's just, I have to do it. Like, so maybe tomorrow, I'm going to go out tomorrow and yeah, so.
All
But
right.
thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
All right, good. Then let's get started. So, deep breath. Well, welcome everybody to making sourdough discard pizza today. It's a really fun way to get your discard out of your refrigerator, using it up, and just enjoying it. And I find that the pizza is just so different from any other pizza, especially gluten-free pizza, that this is our absolute favorite at this point. What I would love to do is, before we get started, is for all of us to get grounded, because I find it's once again a very busy time of the year, and it's so easy to get in our head and, you know, worried about all the things that we have to do, and we forget to be in the present moment. So I'd like to have you stand up if you're sitting and ground your feet into your floor, into the earth, and really feel the connection that you have with Mother Earth. And then when we take a deep breath in, imagine you're pulling up energy from Mother Earth. So we'll take a breath in and we hold. And then when we breathe out, we just relax, sink our shoulders down, let them go down. And then a breath in, pulling up all this energy from Mother Earth. Hold it. And then breathe out. And then one more time, breathe in. Hold. And breathe out. Take your hands, let them hang by the side of your body. And then try to go into your hands, into your arms, and see if you can feel the air around your arms, around your hands. Just be mindful of what's happening in your body. Feel the connection, the base of your feet, your soles, how they connect to the ground below you. And now see if there is something you can pick up that you can hear, any noise in the background. Just see what you can pick up and make a note of it and let it go. And in between, use your breath to anchor in. If your shoulders want to drop some more, just let them go. Open your chest. Find the smile in your heart center. Really become aware that you are in that present moment. You're about to get started to make some delicious food for yourself, to nourish yourself, your body, your soul, and for your loved ones that you get to share it with later. Feel the gratitude for being in a position to do that, for having the ingredients ready and present and easily accessible, that you have an environment to bake in, a home that keeps you warm and sheltered, a kitchen that lets you do the things you need to do, and that in this present moment, everything that you need is available to you. put your hands together in front of your heart center. Bow to you, to yourself, and say a thank you for showing up today, for being present and open to learn, to get better at what you do, and to have the resilience to show up no matter what. Take a deep breath in. Let it go. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. All right. So let's get going. Let's make some pizza. Is anybody here going to try the psyllium husk today? Or is everybody using xanthan gum or something else?
I'm gonna try the I don't know, I call it psyllium. I don't know. How do you say it in English?
Psyllium husk.
Psyllium, okay.
Psyllium husk. Yeah, it's not an easy word. So for that, we are going to start with that first, because you will see that you need to stir it in really quickly because it gels up very fast. And I just realized I didn't prepare water. Hold on.
I noticed that I prepared already the xanthan gum, so I'm actually going to use xanthan gum. But you're saying that if you're using the psyllium, then it's better to put it first?
All right. Sorry, I missed your question, Mirav.
I noticed that I prepared already in advance the xanthan gum, so I'm going to use it actually. But I just wondered, if I'm using the psyllium, I need to put it first, as you said?
Yeah, we're the way when you use xanthan gum, you can mix everything together. All the dry ingredients can get mixed together. If you don't, you need to activate the psyllium husk first, which is what I need to do.
Okay.
So somehow my brain was still on xanthan gum. So I apologize for that. We're going to, and if you're using xanthan gum, then you can start preparing the dry ingredients. So for psyllium husk, we're taking 12 grams, and I'm using a different brand from what I shared with you at the Alchemy of Flour in that document. And I have to tell you, it's okay, but I still like the other brand better. All right, so 12 grams of psyllium husk. And now we're adding 300 grams of water. And you have to mix it really fast because this will gel up like crazy. Flip this so you can see what I'm doing. And in here goes your 150 grams of discard. And this one is really tight. It's like a paste. I don't know if you can see that. It's not bubbly at all. So you may have to really stir the liquid, the hooch in, depending how long this has been sitting. So this actually has been sitting for 2 weeks, hasn't been touched.
So we meanwhile can put in the bowl, we can put all the dry ingredients.
You can start with putting all the dry ingredients in a separate bowl. I can smell the nice sour tang from the sourdough. All right, so this is now uniformly mixed. And
if I'm using the xanthan gum, do I do the same process or what do I do?
No, you can either wait, or you can start measuring it into your bowl with the dry ingredients. So we'll do the dry ingredients in a second. It's just that you have to mix the psyllium husk first. And let me show you. It's like really gel-like. Can you see the consistency of it? It's really thick. I'm coming a little closer. So this gels up like gelatin. And that's what you want. You want to activate, in this recipe, you want to activate the psyllium husk if you use it. And since we haven't used it in any other recipes, I felt it would be a good opportunity to share with you how different it is.
Should we put already the salt with all the dry ingredients, or we should wait with that?
You can put all the dry ingredients together.
Okay.
So here for the liquid ingredients, you start with the water and the psyllium husk, and then you add your 150 grams of starter. So in this way, you need to prepare two different bowls. One is with the dry, one is with the liquid. So now the starter, the water, and the psyllium husk is really thick. It's kind of like pudding. Right? So we'll set that aside. And I'm going to turn on my oven. I have a cast iron pan in there because I want to bake later with you. It's 450. I just double checked. All right. You can set this aside. Now I'm going to start to measure out my dry ingredients. If you use your KitchenAid, you can go straight into the bowl. For that, we need 130 grams of sorghum flour. $15 grams of brown rice flour. $80 grams of arrowroot starch. If you don't have arrowroot starch, you can use tapioca. Oh, I am missing my spoon. And then the 10 grams of salt. And then before we combine everything, just mix up your flour really well with your starch and your salt. Make a well in the middle, so pushing the flour to the side. And then you can add the liquid. So the liquid looks like yogurt right now.
So if we're adding ours, which is water separately and the discard separately,
Then you can
what should we add first?
Then you make your flour mixture first, and then you can add your flour, starch, salt, and xanthan gum mixture first, and then you add separately the water, the discard, and then let it mix in the KitchenAid. So that's a much more straightforward process. But psyllium husk you need to activate beforehand.
Okay.
So that's all we need to do. It's a really simple, straightforward dough. And we're using our dough hook for it. And somehow I managed to make a real mess today. Move this a little bit in here so you can see. And you just let it mix for like a medium slow speed. I need to scrape down the sides of my mixer. You may have to do that as well. If you don't have the mixer, you can do it by hand. Is the mixer really loud? Okay.
I can't hear it at all.
So by pushing the flour out to the side and you're making a well, it helps with incorporating the flour more easily. Otherwise, I find that the flour gets stuck on the bottom. So you will see the difference in consistency in a second between using psyllium husk and using xanthan gum. And you'll understand why psyllium husk has been the love child of anybody baking sourdough right now. And you just have to trade off. Do you like that dense consistency, but forfeit the freshness of the baked good? Or are you willing to work with a lot more liquid dough and then it stays fresh longer? So I think with pizza, you can go either way. With cookies, you can go either way. But with breads and cakes, you don't eat usually everything the same day. So I like to work then with a more liquid dough and just have it fresh longer. Gonna give it another minute here. So this looks pretty much like bread dough. You can form it. If you would make bread this way, you could knead it and do whatever you would do with a yeast dough, with a wheat dough. That's the beauty of it. You can really play with it. And if that is something that you like to do, when we bake bread next week with the cranberry walnut, that is something you can absolutely try. So this is totally firm. You can totally play with it like with any other yeast keep saying yeast today. Wheat sourdough. All right.
So I have a question. Do you not want us to let ours mix for 10 minutes?
Go ahead and mix it for 10 minutes. I'm taking this out earlier so I can show you and you don't have to wait for 10 minutes.
Okay, so
so
it's
we should
okay if
continue.
we keep doing, because I felt like it was just too early, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So that's why I'm playing with it here on the counter. Let me flip this, because I'm kind of doing what you're letting your mixer do, except it's just fun to play with dough. At least for me it is.
Well,
And
they're
So
because
nice that you can play with it, because ours looks
not
really
with the
liquidy.
xanthans.
Yeah,
Yeah, not with the xanthan, right?
Not with a xanthan. I'll show you in a second. Hold
Okay.
on. So this is the xanthan gum one, and it's like cake batter. You can't play with it at all. So this one is ready to rest for the 3 hours. And you take a bowl, coat it with olive oil. Just a little bit, kind of like a teaspoon. And I use my hand just to wipe the sides of it. And then put the extra that's on my hand on my dough. And swirl it around to coat all sides. So I have a nice ball of dough in here, and that is going to rest now. All right, so any questions up until now? We all good? All right, so what we're going to do is we are pre-baking the pizza dough first before we top it. When you pre-bake the dough, it makes it nice and crispy. You can put your toppings on it without getting this doughy, soggy middle, especially since at home you don't have a real hot pizza oven. So with the cast iron pan, we will try to simulate what happens at a pizzeria with the coal-fired or really hot ovens, but we still can't get up to 600-700 degrees. So the highest your home oven goes is usually 500. If you have a real fancy one, it may go to 550, but the cast iron and pan will help simulate, and pre-baking it will simulate as well. So you get the nice bubbly crust with it. All right, so we'll start by taking some parchment paper. A little bit of olive oil so it doesn't stick on it. Keep going back and forth here. So I have a little bit of olive oil on here. and distribute it. And then we take half of our dough. We're making 2 pizzas. Take half of it and spread it out as best as we can.
I'm so glad that you're here to show us, because it's such a remarkable difference between the two. And I would think that I was getting it wrong if it didn't look like the certain kind of pizza dough that we're used to. So it's cool that you're showing us all the different ways and reaffirming that it'll all work.
Right, thank you. And I think with bread, the difference is not as noticeable. In cakes, cookies, and all of that, it's also not as noticeable. But pizza, we have this image of, us having a firm dough like the psyllium husk one that we can play with, and you get this textile feeling, and then you use xanthan gum, and it's like you're making cake.
Right. But you've done all the testing, which is really cool. I love it.
All right, it's just messier. So this is about the size of my cast iron pan.
I have a question about cast iron pans.
Yep.
I have a flat tortilla one, and I have like a saute pan. Does it matter which one I use?
Not really. As long as it's cast iron, you could in a pinch use a pizza stone, but pizza stone doesn't heat up quite as well and retain heat as well. So I find that cast iron actually works better.
So like the edge doesn't matter. Like it's not gonna.
No.
It's gonna like puff up quickly as opposed to spread out and overflow, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So this is the first one that I prepared. I'm going to set that aside. And I'm going to put it on a wooden board because my counter is cold, and I would like it to just puff up a little bit more. Otherwise, it will end up being really more like a crispy flatbread. And I like my pizza dough just a little bit more chewy. So I'm going to give it a little bit more time to rise. And repeat the same process with the second half of the pizza. Just a little bit of oil, or a little more than a little bit, like in this case. When I use the xanthan gum, so when I have the more firm dough, you can just cut it in half and then use your fingers to press it into a circle, which is really fun because you can create a nice little edge, a little crust around it. Well, this liquid dough doesn't really do that.
Hey, Walter, my dough looks, well, it's obviously well mixed now after 10 minutes, but it looks a little lumpy. Does that matter?
It looks what?
A little lumpy.
Little lumpy. Mix it a little bit more. You want it smooth, otherwise you will pick up on the consistency when you eat it.
Great.
So scrape it down and maybe mix just a little longer.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It's mesmerizing watching you spread that out while Trot.
In what way?
It's that repetitive pattern that you have talked about so much in your alchemy of baking stuff, in terms of just, it's like one of those Zen gardens kind of thing. It's a pizza Zen garden.
Oh, yes, thank you. And it's exactly those repetitive movements that help us calm the nervous system, which I find so fascinating. So
my nervous system is calming just watching you do it.
I just love playing with it. Sometimes I get lost in spreading or stirring or chopping, and I'm like, well, actually, I want to make something. I don't just want to play with dough, but I could play with it forever.
Play-Doh was always one of my favorite things as a kid.
Yes, mine too. Or straw, dried straw to make different shapes, like stars or icicle patterns. I love the texture of straw to play with. All right, that is
a lot of white pine with my holiday decor.
Ah, okay. All right, so this one is ready as well. We'll move that aside. Oops, I need another cutting board. Okay, so before I pull the pan out of the oven, because it really is not fully at temperature, anything, any questions, anything going on?
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
As I'm not gonna bake today because it's evening here already, I should cover this with a bag and put it in the fridge, right?
Yeah.
And can I bake only tomorrow evening? So let's say it will stay there for
almost
I don't know
24
how.
hours. Let's say 20 hours or something.
Yes.
Yeah, that should be fine. So your pizza may have a little bit more of a sour tang to it than, you know, if you would just have it in there overnight. But it makes sense that you wouldn't want to make it for breakfast. So what I would suggest is when you make it next time, if you have the time, prepare the dough in the morning before you go to work, stick it in the fridge, and then you have the same time span as an overnight rise. So instead of doing the 3-hour countertop rise that we did last time with the bread, remember, you did the overnight one. You're doing the same thing with the pizza. Just be aware that this one will taste a little bit more sour. And then what you do is you take it out of the refrigerator, spread it out flat into the 2 pizzas that we just did, and let it sit on the counter while your oven heats up. So that should take about a half an hour, 20 minutes to half an hour. That will allow the dough to activate and rise a little bit more. And then you're ready to go.
I don't need to let it stand outside for an hour before I spread it on the...
The longer you let it sit on the outside, the fluffier it will get. But you're walking the fine line between making it fluffier or overproofing. So I would suggest for this time, because I don't know how active your discard is, I would say just take it out for 30 minutes. Take it out, start your oven, prepare it, let it sit, and then proceed.
Okay. Okay, and if I'm using the starter instead of the discard, do I need to let it rise less? Not 3 hours, for example. We should let it, what, an hour and a half?
Hour and a half to 2 hours, yes.
Okay. How do we know? Does it need to double the size or?
No, you are going for about a 30 to 50% rise.
Okay.
When it doubles, by the time you get it in and you bake it, it's almost too much.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then post some pictures and let us see what it looks like with an almost 20-hour rise. That'll be
Okay.
interesting. And let us know what it tastes like too. I think it will have much more of a tang than what everybody else here will experience.
Okay.
Okay, how are we doing?
I have a question.
Yep.
So you've mentioned a couple times with your mixer that the flour doesn't quite, at the bottom, doesn't quite mix. And I have a KitchenAid too, and mine's doing the same. So I have this desire to mix it prior to mixing in the KitchenAid to really, or do the well like we just did. But I also noticed in my pizza dough, no matter how long I mixed it, there were like clumps of flour in there that I couldn't break up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's okay, or, can I mix it before I put it in the mixer? Like, what would you recommend?
You can mix it before you put it in. I have done that. I have also stopped halfway through and really gone in with a silicone spatula and almost like turned the dough over to get the flour out. It's just something, I don't know if it's a design issue of the KitchenAid, but it just keeps happening. And it's
like that little bottom part.
Just that little bottom part.
Yeah.
So I would say either way, whatever works. Mostly I just go in, stop it halfway and almost turn it over, give it a little bit of a hand mixing, and then let it run. And then eventually the dough gets really smooth.
Okay.
So and then I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no. And then also like low is what, like a 2 or right? Like I have like stir and then 2.
Yeah, I usually run it at a 2, maybe a 4.
Okay.
Definitely start off with a 2 because sometimes, at least it happens to me, if I go too fast, I have flour flying all over the place.
Okay. Yeah, that would be me.
So start slow and then you can increase.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sure.
I kept mine on low the whole time and it's in a bowl already. Do you think it matters?
Okay. As long as it's mixed well, you're good to go.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay. And it seems like my oven is hot, so I'm going to take out the pan. And it's definitely, I need a trivet for that. And you want to move fairly quickly because you don't want to lose too much heat of the cast iron pan.
Can you put your screen down so we can see?
Oh, sorry. Yes, absolutely.
It's the best part. I want to hear the sizzle.
Okay. Let's go for the sizzle.
Woo!
And who needs a gym when you have a cast iron pan, right?
Right? Or your Le Creuset pots. Those are heavy too.
Totally true. Okay, so you take the whole shebang, the dough and the cast iron, put it in.
Yeah.
And it's just covering the bottom of it. I don't know if you can see it well.
Yep.
I'll hold it up in a second.
I was thinking you were going to have to take that off the parchment. I was like, that's going to be a trick. So that's
it actually slides off really easily. Hold on. All right, so this stays in and I can never remember which one is the 10-minute and which one is the 12-minute. So the empty crust you bake for 12 minutes.
Which one you bake for 12 minutes?
The empty crust. So just
the empty crust. Okay,
here.
okay, yes.
Okay, so 12 minutes. And then for the topping, I find that it goes much faster. So here's the question. Pizza Tonno or the Elsa's flatbread? What should we do first?
Well, it's good that we can have both of them.
All right.
So choose the one that you want.
Okay. So I'm finding every time I mention Pizza Tonno to anybody in the US, the response I get immediately is like, oh, gross. But yet everybody here, almost everybody, eats tuna melt. And if you go into a pizzeria in Europe, I don't know how it is in Israel, Pizza Tonno is always on the menu, and it's one of my favorite pizzas. I'm having a hard time with pepperoni. So that's my thing. That's my European thing. I'd rather have tunfish on it than pepperoni, but you guys can do whatever you want. So I'm going to show you how to do Pizza Tonno. I'll start with the onion. Let's flip it again. I'll let you watch how I cut my fingers with the onion.
Cancel. Pizza Tonno with fingertips doesn't sound any better.
No, not really. So we don't need a lot of onions. I take just a half an onion. A quarter of that I'm going to slice, and the other quarter I'm going to cut in cubes for that Alsace flatbread.
What brand of tuna do you like to use?
It all depends. I usually look for something that's pole caught, that's environmentally friendly. I mean, the good stuff is the Italian in olive oil, but sometimes I just use the regular one that you get anywhere in water. Then, but
okay, so it's in water. It's not.
Yeah,
terrible.
if you want to go for real deep flavor, then use the one in olive oil and drain the oil out.
Okay.
So this is for our flatbread later. And I'm going really slow because I'm afraid to cut myself. I remember I was teaching a class at the local culinary studio, and we were making kale salad, and I was chopping the kale for the kale salad, and this one lady says, when she watched me cut, she said, "Are you a chef?" And I'm like, "Nope, I'm a health coach." I said, "Well, I thought so." I'm like, "Sorry, no fast onion or kale cutting skills when I'm teaching." All right, and I'm crying. Okay, I already prepared the tuna fish. And I love black olives. My husband, not so much. So in his favor, I cut them in half because he doesn't have to bite into so much olive at the same time.
Put your fan on, Waltraud. It will suck the
yeah, but then I can't
onion. Oh, then you can't hear us, right?
Right. Normally I let the water run, and that helps too. Well, this is real life, everybody. I'm crying here.
What type of olives are you using?
Pitted Kalamata olives. Those are my favorite on the pizza. And then for cheese, I use a different cheese. I already pre-grated this on the large holes of the box grater. So this is my favorite cheese. I find it's healthier. And if you have issues with digesting dairy, this is a lot easier on your stomach than the regular pizza mix. Or you could use lactose-free or whatever works. But this melts well. It tastes good, and that's my favorite one.
Can you show it?
Yeah,
Can you show it again? I didn't see it.
So is it a cheddar?
It is kind of like a cheddar. My one eye is still tearing like crazy.
Go wash your hands. Don't touch your eyes.
So it's the Kerrygold Doublinger, and it is a cheddar kind of a cheese. Hold on, I'll be right back.
That's my go-to cheese when I want a little snack of cheese and crackers, you know.
I love it. I use Kerrygold butter, but I don't know that I've ever had that cheese. It looks delicious.
Yeah, it's really good. Yummy. But I never thought about putting a cheddar type of cheese on a pizza, so this will be interesting. So okay, so far we have the tuna, olive oil, no tuna.
We have
Olives, Kerrygold cheese, and onions, right?
Yep.
Yes, we have the onions, we have tuna, black olives, the cheese, and then just a regular tomato sauce, whatever you want to use. Let's see.
Oh, there's a red sauce with it. I wasn't picturing a red sauce. I was.
Yes, the red sauce. It's kind of like yeah, like a regular pizza with pepperoni or something. I'm going to flip this up. So our dough needs another 6 minutes. And then for the Alsatian flatbread, you can use pancetta, which I'm using today because I'm too lazy to cut the bacon. You can just take a regular bacon. You can use beef fry if you don't eat pork, the onions, and then you use a layer of heavy cream on the bottom, just regular heavy cream. You put down the uncured meat, the onions, a little bit of salt, and then caraway, which is very typical for any German, Alsace, and all this region in the food. We have a lot. We use a lot of that, and it's.
What was that? The seasoning that you showed?
Caraway seeds.
What is caraway?
I do not know what it's in Hebrew.
Okay. Do you have it written?
It's my husband is looking it up for you.
Thank you.
Daniel to the rescue.
Aren't they like fennel? Isn't it the same thing?
Caraway seeds. I'll look for it as well.
Yeah.
Now I see how
when
you
you
write it.
Mirav, when you buy rye bread, the black seeds that are in it, those are caraway seeds.
Okay, let me see for a second.
Well, Chart, if you don't like caraway, like at all, do you recommend anything else?
You could use oregano, but it's not the same. It's the combination of the onion and the caraway that gives it the very distinct Alsatian flavor. Okay.
I'm not a
it's
very
like,
good German.
I know
Not a
what
good
it
German.
is.
All right. Now, oh God, I can't pronounce that. That's what it is.
Kimmel, I just found it. Yeah, it's a Kimmel. He'll understand what I'm saying. Yeah, it's good. I like it.
Okay, good, good, good. All right, we have a little bit over 3 minutes left.
I'm just gonna share with you that I'm just making the Israeli donuts for, as you can see right here.
Oh, beautiful.
The recipe here. Let's see how it goes.
Okay, keep us posted.
Are you
They
using?
seem to be so on trend this year. I've seen so many Food Network and other people making Boston cream pie donuts, those Eclair donuts.
Yeah, I found a place in the area that sells Israeli sufganiyot, because the ones that I get at the kosher bakery, they only have this really gross strawberry jam in there, which I always squeeze out because I hate it. But I found a bakery that will be checking out next week that has M&M and Oreo and caramel. So we have to see how they taste. I mean, the kids will have it. I will not have it. I can't have it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Hila. If your recipe works and you're willing to share how you made them, I will be really grateful. I'll be making latkes in a week.
When does Hanukkah start?
On Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, I made ones but we have like a shortcut of sufganiyot in Israel that is based on eshel. Eshel, it's like a Greek yogurt, something like that, with a 4.5% of fat, and you mix it, and you don't need actually to have any yeast. So you use, baking powder. So it doesn't have the round, correct shape. It's a little bit more, you just put it in oil, but it's really, really good. So I can send you one and you can try it.
Okay, that would be awesome. Thank you. Yeah, in Germany, we have something that's called, besides, the sufganiyot, it's called a Krapfen. and that's that people make during Lent, which I find very interesting. And it looks just like the soufganiot. It tastes like the soufganiot. It's filled with the jam and then powdered sugar. But you can now get it year round, but it's very typical to make during the Lent period. So at the end of February up until, the Easter part.
It's amazing how at the end you can find the same kind of dishes all over the world, but in different connections, but at the end it's the same, which is really nice.
Exactly, yes. All right, so another minute and then I'll take up my dough. I'm going to move this aside for a sec.
I love the diversity and the multicultural facets of this group with the Germany and the Israel, and I mean it's just so fun to see all the different flares and flavors.
Yeah, and it's often just a little bit of a variation in spices, but as you said, Mirav, at the end of it, it's the same.
We're all saying the same thing with just a slightly different flavor. Like if we could just accept that more as a culture, I think we'd be all so much more better off.
That is so true.
Well, Trud, I was just reading through the directions. So we're making 2 dough crusts, whatever you want to call them. And so I probably won't need to make 2 of them, but I could. So how does it work? Like once we have the dough made, can we keep it in the refrigerator? Well, I guess we can keep it in the fridge overnight and do it the next day. We already heard that. The next one would be if we bake it and then want to keep it, like once we prepare the pizza, can we keep it refrigerated?
You mean baked? Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do that all the time. If something is left over, I just put it in a container, store it in the fridge, and then warm it up in the toaster oven the next day. Okay, so I just have to get my dough out. Hold on.
Yeah.
Could you par bake the crust and then make the pizza and then stick that in the fridge and then bake the pizza the next day fresh?
Hold on. Okay. So see how easy it comes off? It just fell out. It's a little smaller today and it puffed up in the corner. So this is actually going to be a small pizza.
Can you move your screen down so we can see?
Oh, sorry. Here we go. So on the corner here, it already puffed up. I just didn't, looks like, get it as big as I normally do. You add the tomato sauce. Just have to be careful. I can feel the heat from the pan.
Yeah.
Then I'll add a little bit of cheese first. The tuna fish. And I'm really curious if somebody is going to try it and what you think. And if you don't like it, don't judge me. But that's what I grew up. This is my comfort food.
I definitely want to try it.
I'm warming up to it.
I'll make it for my dad. He likes tuna. And then let him tell me.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't know.
I mean, I do like a tuna melt.
If you like a tuna melt, I think you would like this.
I don't like pineapple on my pizza.
Well,
I don't know.
Too.
Oh, okay. And I don't like tuna melt. I'm more of a goat cheese olive kind of person.
Spinach, grilled chicken.
Spinach, yeah.
You can top it any which way you like. That's the beauty of it. We can have it all individualized.
I haven't had pizza for like 7-8 years, so I'm a little excited.
Oh, good. Just a little
long time.
Wow.
I'm a little excited. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous because of how it usually makes me feel, but
okay.
I'm being very trusting. Okay. But it's amazing how pizza, just the thought of pizza can trigger pain. It's amazing.
So a little bit of pepper. I like it a little bit, spiced. A little bit of salt. And then in here, I have oregano, Greek oregano that I grew in my garden.
Mm.
So just a little bit of it. And then a little bit more cheese.
Always more cheese.
Always more cheese, yep. And then back in it goes.
Mm.
So I will have
So tell me,
care of today.
When you're doing this second phase of the pizza, can you take it out of the pan and put it just in a regular tray?
Okay, sorry, I missed what you said.
When you're doing the second phase of the pizza, can you take it out of the hot pan and put it in a regular tray?
No, you want to keep it in there because of the heat of the cast iron. So technically you want to do it as fast as possible, get the toppings on and put it back in.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
I could imagine if you don't want a really crispy crust, you could probably just take a regular jelly pan baking sheet and put the dough on there and make it like a regular pizza. What I found is if you really like the pizzeria style pizza that puffs up and gets, you know, crunchy on the outside, you need to get it really hot. And a cast iron has the unique ability to absorb heat and retain heat very well. So you can heat it up without damaging it, and it will keep that environment longer than, let's say, if I take a cookie sheet.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Some people have started now using a pizza steel. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's pretty cool. It's a slab of steel about this thick and the size of a cookie sheet. And you can heat that up instead of the pizza or baking stones. And it retains heat really, really well. And I was reading the other day that with that pizza steel, you could simulate in an oven kind of like the environment of a 600-degree pizza oven because of the heat retention of that massive piece of steel. Now, I don't have one. I don't know if I'm going to invest in one. It's another thing to put in my kitchen, but it sounds exciting.
I have in the garden, I have an outside, you know, a tabboon. This is how you call it, you know,
the grill,
quite big one.
Okay.
You know, am I saying it right? Tabboon? Do you say it as well in English? It's a pizza stove, you know, round one like you have in restaurants, or and then you can put it on the floor of it is out of terracotta.
Yes, yes.
And you put wood inside and you burn the wood and then you shift it and then you can put the pizza on top of it.
Yep.
So I guess there I can do without the pan, right?
Yes, then you would just shoot it in on a paddle like you would in how they do it in a pizzeria. Yes.
But then it's better to use the Facilium because I need to play with the dough rather than spread it on a paper because I cannot put a paper there. It will burn in a second.
Exactly. So then you would change it. You would use, I don't know if you use the coarse cornmeal. So you have a little bit of movement on the dough. So you will put that on your paddle, put the dough on top. Then the same process, put it in, let it cook. I don't know if you need the full 12 minutes or not. So keep an eye.
Probably less.
And then take it out, top it, and put it back in.
Can I do several like this and then put the topping at the end so I can have, you know, quickly pizza? You know what I mean? Like to do the first phase, let it out, do several like this, and then bringing it back.
You want it to continuously cook. So if you have a cavity that's large enough to hold 2 or 3, you can do them at the same time. But you don't want to just par bake them, let them sit. You know what? Try it. See what the difference is if you keep it hot or if you let it cool in between. If it doesn't bother you to change, then you can do it that way.
Okay, I'll do both way and I'll see what's the difference.
Yeah.
I will let you know.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I think this touches on what I always say is you got to play with your food, and you have to get a feel for your environment and how you work and how your family works. And you don't have to adhere so much to the recipe. Once you know what it's supposed to look like, then to me, that's an invitation to play and just bring different variables in and see how it affects the thing that we are making. Make sense? Okay. Now, unfortunately, I can't bake two at the same time. Otherwise, I would. So let's see how much longer we have. We have 5 more minutes before this one comes out, and then I'll put in the other one. Yeah. Today, unfortunately, we have a little bit more lag time in between.
I have a question. Have you ever frozen your dough or cooked dough or the crust or the pizza?
I have not, but that's what I'm going to do with the one that we just prepared. So I'm going to freeze that and probably make it next week or the following week. I will divide it in half already. So instead of freezing one big block, I'm going to divide it and freeze just the dough for one separately, and then let it defrost and proceed like we did today. So I can't say yet how it works, but that's my experiment. I was thinking about, should I make 4 pizzas today? And then I said, no, this is silly. Let's freeze it and see how the dough performs when it's frozen. So stay tuned. I'll share.
And I would imagine
I'm going to do the same.
Okay.
I would imagine the psyllium husk would freeze better than the xanthan gum.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
But again,
well, I'm xanthan, you're psyllium. Yeah, so let's see.
Experiment.
Exactly. Then you share how well you do, and I'll keep you posted how well I do.
Yeah, because it's just me here, so like I'm not going to be eating 2 pizzas, and I mean I could, but I'm going to choose not to. So, yeah, okay, I'll try that.
Then maybe what you want to do is, because your dough is so much more liquid, pre-bake it and then freeze that and see how that works and let it completely defrost.
Oh, so bake it for the 12 minutes and then let it defrost and then start the recipe from toppings and bake it for another 10 or whatever that was. Okay.
Right, exactly.
All right. I'll do that. That's actually
add an extra minute or 2, because now instead of having a hot pizza crust, you're working with a cold pizza crust. But let it defrost. I would say let it defrost on the counter before you put it back in.
All right, it's like a bobolli, as my son would say. He loves bobolli. So, okay, cool, great.
So it's interesting to see everybody's different experiences with working the dough.
I want to see what Hilla's working on.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. How are the sufganiyot coming along? Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me show you. You can see it right here. I'm making donuts for my kids, and those are the sufganiyot. Those are good. It's still warm. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I want to bite into it. It's so good.
It's good for sure.
They look beautiful.
Yes, they do.
So I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind me backing up to bread.
Okay.
I unfortunately haven't prepared anything, haven't tried baking yet because of my fiasco a couple weeks ago. So now that I think I have a viable starter again, when we prepare to bake, I know we have to extra feed.
Yes.
How long in advance do I need to start that? Is it the day before or the 2 days before?
The day before, if your starter is active, if you know that it's responding well. If, for example, your starter has been sitting in the refrigerator for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or however long, then I would suggest you plan for a 2-day feeding before.
Got it.
But once you get the feeling for your starter, like I know my millet, I can take it out tonight and bake tomorrow. It's always ready. It's crazy. My brown rice just sometimes needs 2 feedings.
So you would, if it was in the fridge, you would take it out, feed it, and then let it sit overnight, and you'd be ready to roll the next day if it's your millet.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm nervous because I'm so far behind on bread baking, but I'm excited to try.
Well, go for it and let us know in the Voxer group. And if you have any questions, we'll jump in.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. I'm excited for you. So please share.
Thanks. Me too.
That's the benefit of this extended time together, so that you can really play with the starter and then also have time to really practice with the bread, and of course then the discards and the new breads and stuff. So it's really great to have, to be able to spread out and have this space to go at your own individual pace.
Right. Exactly.
Well, this is such a phenomenal recipe to be able to use up a huge amount of discard, which I love, because otherwise it would be such a waste. I mean, I really enjoy the crackers, you know. I saw a recipe the other day for homemade Cheez-Its, which I thought was hilarious. And I was like, wow, they have a cheesy texture all by themselves without doing anything to it. I was like, a little extra nutritional yeast, and they'd probably be phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's see what it looks like. I'm trying to do a quick switch.
But we got to put the camera down.
This is my Pizza Tonno. Going to take it out, just over on a wooden cutting board.
Look at that.
So pretty.
Right, I'm going to set it aside quickly, because we'll put this one in. So this is a lot larger. So ideally, this is the way I like it. So the first one I didn't spread wide enough. This one is just coming up on the sides a little bit, because then you get a little bit more of a defined crust. All right, so that's 12 minutes again. All right, so should we wait a minute and then cut it? I do not like a lot of cheese on my pizza, so you can do whatever you want. If you like it really cheesy, go for it. Oh, that sounded weird. Cheesy.
Nothing wrong with a little cheese.
All right. Oh God, it smells so good. Between the smell of olives, oregano, and a tuna fish, that's my heaven. So this discard did not give me much of a rise today. So this is definitely a little bit more flat. But I was also kind of rushing it after we shaped it. So I don't know if you can see, it's fairly flat.
Looks delicious.
So normally there is a little bit, if you look at the crust, it has a little bit of bubbles. So normally that's what I'm going for the whole slice. This one did not give me the rise, but hey, it happens. Okay, so I'm gonna put this aside because it's really hot still. Okay.
Wanted quick question. So can I use the pizza on a pizza oven? I do have outside like the Oni pizza oven, the one with the stone.
Yes.
So
yes,
I can.
You can use that. That's what Mirav was just saying. She has one too outside, and she's going to try tomorrow to make it. So go ahead and see how yours comes out outside. Are you putting it directly on the terracotta in the pizza oven?
I do use it on top of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to put something underneath, like cornmeal, to allow it to travel. And then you obviously wouldn't use the parchment paper in there.
No. Okay.
Yeah. But otherwise, it's the same way. You pre-bake it, top it, and finish it off.
Pre-bake it?
Yes, pre-bake it.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions while we wait for this one to par-bake? Let's talk about the class next week. Mirav, I don't know, can you get cranberries in Israel? Yes?
Yes, we can. But next week, unfortunately, I will not be able to join you as we are gonna ski in France next week.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so we're gonna be on vacation, but I hope I will get to the recorded session and then I'll try to do it. I love a bread with nuts, but I don't like much cranberries, so I can do it without it, right?
You can do it without it. You could use dried dates if you wanted. So you could do dates as well if you like a little bit of the dried fruit in it, or just leave it out. So it will be orange scented. We're going to use orange juice and orange zest in it. So it has a little bit more of that holiday feel to it. So you could do that
nice.
just with walnuts, but a little bit of dried fruit might be nice. Is there any dried fruit that you do like, or you're not a big fan in general?
I like dried fruit, but I like it as it is. I don't like it in a bread because then it forces the bread to be sweet. And, you know, I like to put all kind of salty stuff on it. And it's actually kind of, I don't know, it feels weird for me. But, and the girls don't like it as much with the dried fruit. So I will use the, you know, the orange flavor, which sounds really interesting, but with the walnuts instead, you know, and no dry fruits.
Okay.
By the way, I sent today, this morning, I sent my girl to school with a sandwich from a bread that I baked, which was very exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. Good for you. Good for you. So everybody,
they really like it. Yeah, and my husband really liked it, so. And
that's
seriously,
great.
you know, for the first time my girl is 13 and she was diagnosed when she was 3. So 10 years we are with celiac at home. And only since our class, I'm finally doing pancakes, which are good. I'm struggling for 10 years with pancakes, which are like that, you know, every time, not exactly. And now it's really like a real pancake. It's really good.
That's amazing. That makes me so happy.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And yeah, if you want to write a testimonial, I will be so grateful.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. And on that note too, if you post on social media, if you don't mind tagging me, I always like to see what you are making. And I find the more we can spread the word, the more we can help others that are struggling too with not being able to have regular baked goods. That is my goal, to help people that have to avoid gluten to actually have a joyful gluten-free experience. So if you want to help spread the word, that will be so awesome. All right, 5 more minutes.
Tell me, in the area that you are living, do you have a lot of options to buy gluten-free bread and pizza? Do you have like special
It has gotten
places?
better over the years. The bread that we can buy, I'm not a fan of. It has a lot more starch in it than I prefer. And it's usually very small and expensive. I'm now paying for a loaf that's about half the size of what we are baking, I think $9, $8 something, which is just absolutely silly in my opinion. and it doesn't have much of a flavor. So I'm not happy with the breads. There are a few places where you can get pizza at a pizzeria that is gluten-free. Most of them are frozen that they just top, which is not a great experience. But there was one where the daughter of the owner was celiac, and they had a dedicated area in their kitchen that prepared gluten-free pizza, and it was from scratch dough. Unfortunately, they have since closed, since 2020, I think is when they closed. So the closest one that I haven't been to, but it's about 20 minutes away from where I live, there apparently is another pizza place that makes dough from scratch. Otherwise, it's just frozen.
Yeah, in Israel, it's actually quite developed lately, so it's nice. We have a good bread bakery. I do have to drive, a half an hour for a special bread, and it's about the same price. It's about $8 as well, but it's really good. It's out of sourdough bread, but it's nicer when I prepared it at home, and I know exactly what I have in it, and also pizza. We have the option to pizza, even to order home, with the delivery, which is nice. It's nice for the kids, when they're going out, that they have the option to eat outside and not only, depend about the food at home.
Right.
When you are adult, it's easier, but when you're a kid or a teenager,
it's a lot harder. Yeah, that is so true.
My friend who started a gluten-free bakery about a year and a half or so ago in Austin, Texas. She sells just the most beautiful, like unbelievably delicious gluten-free different types of things, but her boulet that she sells is $12 a loaf. I mean, it's phenomenal, delicious bread. So, if you want something that's like a nice, like really makes you feel like you're eating bread, that's the way to go. But like, it's not really in most people's price range, you know what I mean? Especially families who are more of a sort of budget conscious. It's a lot for a loaf of bread,
Yeah, it's
Right.
a lot. And what I found too was, and I'm not saying your friend, because it sounds like she's making some really amazing bread. I started looking around at the ingredients for regular sourdough, so wheat-based sourdough, and most of them don't use the real sourdough process.
Right.
So they're often flavored with beer, and then some vinegar to get the sour taste, but it's not a real fermented sourdough, which in a way, I'm a bit upset about it, because if you have digestive issues and you're going for a sourdough bread knowing that it's fermented and it's easier to digest, and you don't look at the label, you assume that it's a real fermented bread. And then in the way it's not, it's just misleading.
More false labeling, yeah.
Yeah, a lot more false labeling.
Sourdough wash. We have greenwashing. We have sourdough washing.
I was at one of our, stores here. I'm not going to name, but if you're in the US, where you can spend a lot of money if you choose to for food. And they have bread from a local bakery that's a high-end bakery with, wood-fired ovens and whatnot. And even their sourdough bread is not a real sourdough bread. And I'm like, come on, guys, you have a name, you have a reputation, and you're still cheating on your bread.
My husband just ordered, literally we just got the shipment. I'll show you, maybe you know the brand. Have you heard about this brand?
Yes, I have.
We literally just got the shipment. I don't know if they're good or not. We'll try them. Have you tried them?
I have not tried this particular one. I tried one about 3 years ago from a different brand, and it was okay, but it did give me a little bit of an upset stomach. So let us know what you think of this one. I've seen the ads for it, but I haven't tried it.
I've tried it. It's the one I've been eating for like the last 6 months or to a year, and it's okay. It's very sour. It's very it's not like the bread that we're making. It's very dense. So it's just it's a different change, you know? So I can't eat it untoasted. Like I have to toast it and put like nut butter on it to almost hide the flavor a little bit.
Okay.
So I think we're spoiled with this bread, Waltra. I'm just gonna say, like,
Okay, I am
yeah,
also
it's great.
spoiling you. If I
Put
can
your
do
thing
that.
down. I want to see you pour cream over.
Oh, yes. So
That
this is the Alsatian flatbread. And what I did was I poured some heavy cream on it on the base and spread it.
This is
Heavy
pre-baked.
cream, that it's a whipped cream?
Yes, but you don't whip it. Just here, the heavy cream, the whipping cream you put on the base. So no red sauce here. Then, where's my onions here? I like to cube my onions. Some people use just the sliced onions. I can hear the sizzle. I don't know if you can hear that. No,
The heavy cream that you're using, is it a 10% fat or is it a 38% fat?
let me take a look in a second. I'll look once I have this in the oven.
I have to pick up my kids from school early today. Thank you for the class, Walter, and I'll watch it later, I guess.
Okay, sounds good.
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Bye,
So I'll add a little bit of the pancetta to it.
Unfortunately, this one I cannot get in Israel.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can get in Israel beef fry. You can use beef fry as well. And then all you do is spice. So I'll add a little bit of salt to it, not much, because the pancetta is salty. The caraway seed, which is a typical spice for this. All right, and then up in the oven.
No cheese?
No cheese on this one. Not a pizza. There are different variations of making it. Sometimes, let me just flip this again. I have seen at some places where they make it more like a quiche almost, where they mix the cream with an egg, and there's a lot more onion, and it's about this thick. But that's not how I grew up with. The way we made it is actually just the heavy cream, the onion, and the caraway seed, so no meat on it at all. And that was just a bread, as I said, as a side to a salad or an afternoon snack. That's, yeah, most of my childhood, that's what we had. I unfortunately fell in love with having a little bit of meat on it. So there are different variations, either no meat, the way I'm making it, or the thicker version that is almost, it's similar to a quiche Lorraine, except the dough is more of a flatbread dough and not a pastry shell.
And how many eggs are you putting into that? Would you use, if you were going to do it that way, would you like 4 to 6 or 2? What would you?
Probably 4.
So you're looking for a good thick quiche kind of on top of the crust.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as much as a quiche. It would maybe be half as much. So sure. What is it? Maybe an inch or less. So it's not as thick. And it has more of the flatbread kind of a dough underneath.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So you can still hold it and eat it like a bread and not like a quiche with fork and knife. Yeah. All right, so how much fat is in our heavy cream? It doesn't show. So the total fat content in here is 8% on a tablespoon. but it doesn't say the percent of fat in the milk. Does anybody know how much fat is in our heavy cream in the US?
I'm looking it up. Hold on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
36%.
It's a 36. Okay, so it's like because in Israel you have a cooking cream and you have whipped cream, so you can whip it, and that will be the 38, and you have a cooking cream which is a 10%. It has. So I just wonder which one you're using.
Yeah,
No, for soup, you will use the 10% in Israel. It's less heavy.
Yeah,
And
that's what we call a light
okay.
cream.
Okay, good. Okay, just for me to understand, the
heavy cream would be a whipping cream for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good to know. Thanks.
Okay.
So tell me, if you're doing this kind of a dough, it's not the same as a focaccia.
No, for the focaccia you would want a lot more rice, and we would definitely not work with discard. So for that you use a starter, and you want a little bit more of a cake-like consistency without the flavor of cake or bread.
Okay, and you will probably use more the psyllium rather than the xanthan because you would want the.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think at some point I want to do a masterclass for the focaccia and also for challah. I have a class for regular challah, gluten-free regular challah, but I'm really intrigued to play with sourdough instead of yeast. So once I'm done with figuring that out and it's consistent and I have tested it enough, then I will offer a masterclass on this, because
it's not an easy with the challah.
Yeah. Yeah, the one that I have that I actually taught last year, I use psyllium husk, and you can braid it. I did a 4-strand braid with it, and it looks pretty close to regular challah. I have it on my Instagram account. It's like a year ago, and it tastes really good. But it has psyllium husk, and I would really, really like to do that. Ideally with xanthan gum and sourdough, but that's going to be a challenge.
It's hard to play with it now that I understand the mixture that it's and the challah. The whole point is that you're actually making what's the right word for that?
You want to make the braid.
Yeah, exactly, the braid.
Yeah, and you can do that with a regular yeast gluten-free dough with psyllium husk. I've taught that class last year. Okay,
so we'll wait for that.
Okay, yeah, stay tuned.
to hear both options, with the regular yeast maybe and with the sourdough.
Yeah, I just think adding the sourdough to it will just give it a little bit more flavor.
Can we see your crust that's rising in the back there with the psyllium husk? Will that look like anything different?
In the bowl?
Yeah, will that have puffed up at all or anything?
It might have, because it's right next to the warm oven. So let's see. Yes, it has gotten a little bit puffier. I don't know. It's pretty bright with the lights. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's kind of filled out the bowl a little bit at least, and it's puffed up on the top.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool.
So I better get this one in the refrigerator quickly before it rises too much.
You're going to use it tomorrow rather than today?
I'm going to freeze it.
You're going to freeze it completely like this?
Because right now it's just 3 of us in the house. The kids are not here, so it's my husband and I and my daughter, which I picked up from college yesterday. And she will refuse to eat gluten-free stuff. So I need to freeze it for next week or in 2 weeks.
I don't tell my son, he has no clue.
Yeah, well, she knows if we are eating it that it must be gluten-free, and then she doesn't eat it.
So tell me, when you freeze it and you take it out of the freezer, how long do you let it stay outside?
I think this one I will let defrost and then shape it and make sure I give it a full 30-minute rise so it is airy before I pre-bake it.
But you don't let it outside for 3 hours to let it raise like the regular way, if you would do it now?
Oh, that's what you mean. Yes. Well, right
Yeah.
now it has already risen partially because it is so
Okay.
hot behind me.
Okay.
So when I take it out, I have to see what the dough looks like. I haven't done it yet, so this is going to be an experiment. I have to see what it looks like, how fast it's going to respond coming out of a frozen state to continue to grow.
Okay.
And you're going to cut it in half and freeze it in 2 different sections, is what
Exactly. So I will lose some of the rise that we just got by cutting it in half.
Chop it or punch it down or whatever.
So I think ideally, if I would make dough just to freeze it, I would get the dough done, cut it in half, freeze it right away, and then let it do the rise. But this one is sort of in between. It's like half done.
You ever use yeast and sourdough together? Would there ever be a reason for that?
Not really. If you have a good starter, you don't need to add yeast. And yeast is nothing other than a one strain of yeast that will create the rise. And we can have so much more in the sourdough. I find if I look at older cookbooks or baking books, if they refer to, if they have a recipe in there that is sourdough, they often mix it with yeast. You get a faster rise. But I think in terms of texture and flavor, I'd rather do the old-fashioned method of giving it the proper time to develop and rise and use that. So I'm not a big fan of mixing sourdough with yeast, because in a sense, you use the sourdough to impart flavor, but you use the yeast for the rise. And when you do that, you don't get the fermentation. And my whole point is I want to have a healthy gut. So whatever I do is more health focused and not so much convenience focused, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. That's why we love you, Waltron.
Well, thank you. Love you too.
Keeping our guts healthy and eating bread at the same time.
Yes, we should have both, I always feel like being healthy doesn't mean you have to eat grass and cardboard.
Eat my gluten-free cake and have it all too.
All right, this looks much better now. Just needed 2 extra minutes today. So you have, flip it again.
Oh, wow, that looks so good.
So you'll see that the pancetta is a little browned. The onion started to brown. And then
and the cream kind of just like gels. That's so interesting. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it just gives it a little bit of moisture on the bottom. And
it actually like holds its shape. It doesn't just like bake into the crust.
No. The only thing is, I have to say, and I said that before, I think because it was it was the discard from Hildegard, so it didn't have that strength, and it's been sitting for 2 weeks. They are flatter than I normally like. So usually I get a little bit more lift. So in hindsight, I would say I should have probably added a little bit of active starter to it. But the process is the same thing. And I think, again, it's a learning experiment or learning opportunity, what to do when you have something like that. Just go back and think about, okay, why did it not rise as much? And it's because the discard is not quite as active.
And so if you were going to add, if you have a young discard and a young starter, what would the ratio, and if you were going to use both, what would the ratio be, like 50-50?
I would do 50-50. Just looking at the way this looks today, it's a 50-50. Yeah, and I was debating, should I take my old discard from Hugo, from Alfred, and I felt like I would be cheating. I wanted to make it the way it would be for you because you have a young discard. And I guess what I'm saying is don't be disappointed if yours comes out a little bit flatter. Maybe go ahead and just add 50% active starter to it.
Can we add now after it's already?
No, not now.
Okay, next time.
Next time when you do it, because the whole goal is with going back and forth between bread baking and discard baking is you want to use up your discard. The more you bake bread, the more discard you generate. And here you have a choice. And if your discard comes from a really strong starter, then you get a little bit more rise with it.
Okay. And another question about the edge of the pizza. The color is quite, it didn't burn.
No.
Should we maybe put on top of it like olive oil or something like that if we want some more color? Or
you can do that. You probably will get more color in your pizza oven than we get here. I also don't like my pizza too dark. So I don't like burnt cheese. When my son makes pizza, he likes it a lot more well done. So make it the way you want. You can absolutely put olive oil on it. You have total creative freedom.
okay. Thanks.
Which is exciting and scary all at the same time.
Yes. Milena, you had a question, right?
Well, I do have a question, but I was just going to say in response to the whole color. I mean, you could also finish it off for just a quick flash under the broiler too, if you want that extra like brown around the edges type of thing. So and then there's a difference between like some people like sort of the more, I forget what you call them, like the deep dish type of pizza, which would give you more like not what you're looking for necessarily, but a bigger rise versus like just fully discard, which would be more flat, where a lot of people like those really skin thin pizzas. So it seems to me it's just a personal preference.
Yes, that is true too. So we are definitely more of a thin crust pizza kind of family.
Yeah.
But for example, when I was growing up, my parents preferred the thicker, almost like the Sicilian type pizza or the grandma pie that is thicker. To me, that's more of a cake or focaccia than pizza. I just like it really crispy, but it's totally, totally personal preference. And I think with what we've done here today, you have a feeling of how you can play with your dough to get one or the other.
Definitely.
Yeah. Good. All right. I can't wait to see what you're making over the next couple of days or later today. So share in the Voxer group. If you put it on social media, it would be awesome if you want to tag me. And otherwise, we'll be making bread again next week.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy your pizza.
I'm sorry?
Enjoy your pizza.
Yeah, I want to see you take a bite of that other one. Just like tell us how it is. Go bite into that piece.
I was wondering if her husband stole it and there wasn't.
That's what I was thinking. Did Dan eat it?
It's all blocked with the lights.
Oh, it's like torture.
Oh, look at that. Oh, so good.
It is good.
That's great.
Yeah. The only downside, as I said, is the dough didn't rise as much as I like it. So it's a little bit doughier. So I guess what I'm going to do is with this discard, it's going to be pancakes.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to my older one or add an active starter to it.
And also, just a quick side note, if we were going to experiment with using active starter in this particular recipe, we would want to make a point to feed the starter the day before to have enough to prepare for it. Yeah,
exactly. Then if you want to use it as an active starter, you have to activate it. Absolutely.
Okay, that's good.
Activate it for 12 hours before?
Yes.
Okay.
Or enough time. So for example, if you know that your starter peaks at 8 hours or 6 hours, you don't need to do it the night before. So what I'm saying is, if you feed your starter and you know that it's peaking, if you're watching it during the day and it's peaking after 6 hours, 8 hours, you could cheat and feed it in the morning and bake in the evening. But if you have a slow starter, most of the starters peak within 12 hours. That way,
Mhm.
you do it the night before.
Okay. So if, for example, I will feed now my starter and I will let it stay for the night outside. And then tomorrow morning, I will add a little bit to the dough that I have in the fridge now, and I will still let it stand for another, few hours because I'm going to work. And only when I will come back from work, I'm going to prepare, even later a little bit, only at the evening, I will prepare it. I can do that.
I would not do it. I would not do it with this dough.
Okay.
Because then your ratio is going to be off. Try baking it the way it is now and then add the active starter the next time you make pizza.
Okay. I'll do that.
Okay.
So while Tread, on that same note that you just said about activating it and how long it takes, I never really thought about that. But so I just want to give you a quick picture of something really fast. Flip my camera.
Mm-hmm.
So I fed both of this morning. Whoa, let's see if I can focus. Oh, there we go. I fed both of these at 7:30 this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And would you say then, if that was like 6 or 7 hours later, like, is that what you mean by that? That it's
exactly, that is a much faster starter than the other one.
So, because this is the one I'm trying to recover, the original one, and this is the one that was my backup that I discovered, and I've been feeding it for 2 days. So like that then would be ready to go.
Yeah. So when it peaked is just before it starts falling again. So if you watch it for a while, you will see a pattern that at some point it stops, it doesn't rise anymore, and then it starts to just slightly collapse and deflate.
Yeah, it just actually did. I checked it about an hour ago and it was really puffy, and then now it's already fallen. So like if that's the case, would you feed that then at that already?
You don't need to feed it right now. You can let it collapse.
Okay.
But this would be the prime time now or an hour ago to bake bread with it.
Got it. Okay. That's what you mean. I mean, that's about like learning about your starter and its personal characteristics, right? Okay.
Exactly. And it's really so beautiful to see that they're actually both brown rice starters kind of come from the same starting point, if you will, but both of them have a different characteristic. So want to bake with a starter that is at peak.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
I have to go.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, we went way longer than I thought.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy your pizza.